In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I want to greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Dear beloved brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, and even enemies. Welcome to another episode of the Image and Nation show. My name is Brother Leo Muhammad. I am unfortunately sitting by myself this evening, but hopefully we'll be joined a little bit later by our beloved Sister Claudia Muhammad. Dear family, thank you once again for the wonderful privilege of having the opportunity to come to you live and direct wherever you are. We are currently live on Zoom and also on YouTube. And as always, dear family, we are praying to Almighty God that we can have a successful show without any lapse in our internet power. At the present time, everything is looking good, but there was a little glitch just before we came on air. So I cannot guarantee the service. We've been having some difficulties over the last few weeks, but inshallah, all will be well. Dear family, thank you once again for tuning in with us on the Image and Nation show. And, you know, I'm really kind of excited to come to you once again to talk about a subject matter that I think is important and something that I think that we should be aware of, and that we should be, you know, keeping an eye on these things. And as always, I say that the Image and Nation show is a continuous call to action. The idea is not about entertainment. The idea, first and foremost, is about information and education, and with the desire to change minds and hearts and to allow us to do something for ourselves, look deeper into ourselves, and really begin to manifest that tremendous faculty that all of us possess, which is called imagination. Image and Nation. We desire on this platform to encourage you to reimagine your existence, reimagine your life, reimagine the future that all of us can achieve, that all of us can have, if we would just employ that faculty of imagination. If we can see it, dear family, we can bring it into reality. That is the reality of this process of life. Everything began as a mere thought, and at some point it may have become a word, and at another stage it becomes flesh. That's how everything works in this universal order of ours. There is no real magic or abracadabra. Things don't just materialize out of nothing. They come via and through a process. Dear family, thank you for being with us once again this evening on the Image a Nation show. And, you know, I'm very concerned about the time in which we are living and some of the things which are going on. And I'm very clear that people need to be informed today, because not enough of us, I think, are taking sufficient notice of exactly what's going on. So here we are. Welcome to episode 65 of the Image and Nation show. And this week's title of our show is Why? It's a question. Why is humanity sick and dying? Do you realize, dear family, that in 2023, we are constantly told on the news that we are a modern, that we are a technologically advanced society, and that things are better than what they were in the past. That, you know, in this modern era, in this modern world, we are supposed to be living longer and doing so much better. But are we really, dear brothers and sisters? Why is it that they're constantly building more and more hospitals? Why is it that there are more and more sick people? Why is it that some people are predicting new pandemics and, you know, suggesting that this is the future, as opposed to wellness, as opposed to optimum health and well-being? We need to think about these things, dear family, because rather than the notion that we are progressively getting better, it would appear, to all intents and purposes, that we may, in fact, be getting worse, that things are not what they seem, and that lies are being told in this time that we live. And we need to be able to decipher and look carefully into what we are given in order to really get the truth. Dear family, the question I'm asking is, what if you were to discover that the world in which we live is basically fraudulent and corrupted to the point where almost everything, including the food we eat and take for granted, is not safe or fit for human consumption, but instead it is processed, manipulated, and contaminated on purpose for the benefit of a wicked cabal? That's a question, man. I'm asking you, what if that's the case? What if all of what we're consuming today is manipulated and contaminated for the benefit of a small group? Those of you wondering, what does the word cabal mean? Well, let's go into it. According to one of the dictionaries, cabal is a small group of secret plotters as against a government or person in authority. The plots and schemes of such a group intrigue a clique, as in artistic, literary, or theatrical circles, to form a cabal, intrigue, conspire, plot. Dear family, you know, again, we live in a world where when you bring up the reality of the cabal, when you bring up the fact that things are just not happening haphazardly or naturally, but that there is a plan or a plot behind, then of course you will hear that language of, oh, conspiracy theorists, you're a conspiracy theorist. But it's strange, isn't it, how so many of the so-called conspiracy theories that we've been hearing over several years now always turn out to be true, okay? And those who are condemning the so-called conspiracy theory turn out to be a bunch of liars and oftentimes a part of the plot. Many of those who throw out that terminology, conspiracy theorists, They're not a part of the conspiracy. They haven't got a clue. They're just damn ignorant. And because they don't know any better than the system that currently exists, they're happy to just prop it up and go along thinking that they are looking out for their best interest. Because again, the reality is that so many people in this world, of course, have invested in this world. Everything they have has been provided by this world. And so therefore, they feel that it's dangerous to rock the boat of the world just in case it should capsize and all of them end up in the water. And so I can understand that. I can understand people being afraid, that if they look too deeply into things, they could get into trouble, because again, that's the kind of world that we currently exist in. But let's have a look at this. I'm going to try not to stop this too much, but in truth, when I looked at it earlier, I was stopping it every second in truth.
Okay. So you think this is olive oil, right? Wrong. Well, maybe some of it is, but this is actually a classic example of food fraud.
Extra virgin olive oils are being switched out with cheap ones. And
did you hear what she said? She said food fraud. Food fraud. And again, how many of us really appreciate that somebody can give you a bottle of olive oil and say, this is extra virgin olive oil and it's green and it's fresh, and they can describe to you on the bottle how it was cold pressed and all of that. But how do you know it's the truth? How do you actually know it's the truth? Because when you live in a world that's steeped in deception and lies, how can you guarantee that anything that is on a label is actually the correct labeling?
Fraudulent to sell something labeled as something else.
Why is this fish being mislabeled?
Your Parmesan cheese products do not contain any Parmesan cheese.
As there was no one brand that stood out as completely safe.
Wow, so we can't eat anything.
I guarantee you, anytime a product can be passed off as something more expensive, it will be. It's that simple.
Counterfeits, dilution, substitution, and mislabeling.
Think about that. The man is saying that he can guarantee that any time that there's the potential to make a profit, that people are going to be up to some skullduggery. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. But that's the kind of world that we currently live in, dear family. And I'll say this before really going much further. Anytime Allah blesses me to be able to, do these types of shows and speak on particular issues or whatever, I'm not really trying to be so much comprehensive, covering every facet of this. What I'm really trying to do is get you to begin to do your own homework. Get you, dear brothers and sisters, to begin to do your own research and look into some of these things, man, because it's serious business. And the bottom line is, at the end of it all, I have a leader, a teacher, and a guide in the person of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whose leader, teacher, and guide is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who have given us a clear set of guidelines and principles, rules and regulations that we attempt to live by for the protection of our lives. And I make no apology. I'm asking you, why won't you attempt to live by these same rules, principles, and guidelines? Because in my humble opinion, it's the only way that you can protect yourself in a world like this, where so much of what we might take for granted is actually deception.
Fraud not only harms consumers' wallets, it puts their health and safety at risk.
We might not know the overall impact of food fraud because so much of what fraudsters do is hidden from us and has been for centuries.
Some estimates say food fraud affects at least 1% of the global food industry, at a cost as high as $40 billion a year, according to the Food and Drug Administration.
Grocery.
The figure they gave is food fraud affecting 1% of the global food market. Let me tell you something. Do you understand what kind of a low estimate that is, and the degree of deception even in that? Because it's like, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. It's like this situation which is currently unfolding in the British media around the Metropolitan Police and their corruption, and the rapists who they're now revealing, who have been in there for 20 years, raping at will, and the system, the institutionally racist and corrupt system, has been basically protecting this demon and many others. According to the new commissioner, he's saying now that, don't be surprised if you get more horrible, grotesque revelations coming out, and you can look out for at least 3 police officers being charged and going to court each and every week for the foreseeable future. He's predicted that there's over 1,000 of them currently under investigation for serious crimes, not just some, small stuff, but really horrible stuff. But what you will constantly hear when you hear about these cases is this refrain that it's, one bad apple in the barrel. It's just a few bad apples. And so this is the way in which they try to play down the severity and the reality of what we're facing. Because I've always said this, and I've said it sometimes a little bit in jest, but in all seriousness, how is it that we as Black people, we seem to have met all of these bad apples, because that's mostly what we come across. These few bad apples, they seem to really get around, and we meet them in all the different forces up and down the country, not just the Met. And so, I take these figures when they throw out these percentages really with a large pinch of salt, because I know that whatever they're revealing now, understand that that's the tip of the iceberg. And when you look at icebergs, that when you see the tip, you're not seeing the majority of the iceberg. Most of it is submerged under the water, dear family.
Manufacturers of America estimated that 10% of the commercially available food in the United States is adulterated. That's 1 in 10. It means if you're not on that 8-item or less checkout line, you've got something in your cart when you leave the supermarket that's probably bogus.
Here's how and why fake food sits secretly in our kitchen cabinets. According to the FDA, food fraud is considered economically motivated adulteration, or EMA.
It's a monetary impact to the consumer and to the food manufacturers, but it's also a potential public safety, public health impact. It robs us of nutrients and can kill people, and has done.
Larry Olmsted researched food fraud for years and published his book, Real Food, Fake Food, in 2016.
As I worked on this book, my definition of fake food.
So you can find his book on Amazon, Real Food, Fake Food, it's called. It's quite an interesting read. And, you can get it on Kindle, which literally you're talking about £3 or something like that. So again, I would suggest, I don't want to make this man rich or nothing like that. I'm really not interested in him as an individual as such, but what I'm interested in is truth. What I am interested in is you and I having sufficient information that would allow us to be able to take precautions against our illness and our death based on consumption of fake and also fraudulent food, things which have been adulterated, things which have been tampered with in different ways with different motivations, mostly governed by profits, but also more nefarious than that, those who are trying to control population growth by literally the poisoning and the contaminating of food produce. Dear family, I hope everybody is good.
Anytime what you buy is not what you think you're buying, doesn't really matter whether it's legal or illegal. It's where you're being tricked. You're buying something that's not what you think it is.
The worst offenders can include seafood, meat, dairy, honey, alcohol, spices.
The fraud happens more with more expensive foods. Totally makes sense, right? There's a higher margin.
Take your extra virgin olive oil as an example. Fraud usually occurs here when a cheaper oil is added to the more expensive oil, and the label still reads 100% extra virgin olive oil. That's food fraud.
And I mean, I think, you know, something you just said, I think, okay, I can understand that. Okay, when you're talking about strictly profitable stuff and the more expensive items are the ones that could be vulnerable to that kind of food fraud. But I don't think that's completely the truth. I think a lot of cheap food, which is aimed at ordinary working class people, is a great target, especially again for this population control agenda. So, you know, let's not get it twisted and think now that it's only those expensive food items that are being manipulated, having ingredients put in there or removed from there in order to cheapen the product, but sell it still at that exorbitant price. You get what I'm saying? We've got to understand what's happening at the lower end of the marketplace. Bearing in mind that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did warn us in How to Eat to Live that we should not purchase cheap food. I mean, think about it. You know, every now and then I ride a motorcycle. I like to do that. And, you know, the crash helmets, man, they run into some serious expense if you're going to get a decent crash helmet. See? And I've had people say to me, oh, how could you pay so much money for just a helmet? Well, look at what it's protecting, man. See, how much value do you put on your head? I put a lot of value on my head. I'm not saying that my head is particularly good or particularly smart. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the little that I've got there, I want to look after it. I want to preserve it, okay? Because to me, it's priceless. And so this is what I'm saying, dear family. We have to get the best food to put into this body. To the best of our ability, we ought not to be trying to find the cheapest stuff to put into this, which is the most sophisticated, most expensive item in the universe, if you understand that which Almighty God, Allah, has made, that which is called the human body.
Olive oil has been adulterated for thousands of years because it is of high value and it is sought out.
They might flavor it with beta carotene and maybe color it with a little chlorophyll to make it a little more green. And so then you've got a lower quality, cheaper oil.
So both of these olive oils I got at the grocery store, and both of them are the store brand, but one cost way more than the other. This one had a label of 100% Mediterranean blend of extra virgin olive oil. So the olives were sourced from a bunch of different European countries, and it said it was packed in Italy, and there was no expiration date. And when I purchased this one was a 100% California extra virgin olive oil. First pressed, cold pressed, unfiltered, no artificial colors, preservatives, or flavors. And this one had an expiration date. It said that these olives were harvested in October, November 2022, and that it would be good on your shelf until August 2024. and it was much more expensive. Roughly twice as much as this olive oil. And this one had way more information about where this olive oil came from.
Now let's look at the spice market as another one that's vulnerable to fraud. Think of an expensive spice, like saffron. This tiny amount cost me $20 at the store. Saffron can be bulked up with some other material like plant stems and sold as the same, according to the FDA.
Popular spices like basil and chili powder from a range of different brands.
Anything that's kind of colored orange, brown, and ground up can be passed off as turmeric.
It's the ultimate bait and switch.
And then there's fish. The FDA says seafood fraud can occur when a less expensive species of fish is substituted for a more expensive species. After all, it's kind of hard to know what fish you're buying, right?
If you're an experienced chef or fishmonger, you can look at like a red snapper fillet and tell whether it's red snapper, but 99% of consumers can't. You know, most of the fish we eat is white fish. Every fillet looks pretty much the same, which is why there's so much substitution. The FDA is mandated by law to inspect 2% of the imported seafood, which is, I think, a very, very low bar.
In fact, the U.S. imports as much as 85% of its...
I mean, just think about that. The Food and Drug Administration is basically inspecting 2% of the food that goes into the marketplace. So what kind of a vetting process is that? How do we know anything about what we're eating, whether it's actually healthy or not, dear family? You see, what we're trying to get to here is, why are we sick and dying? Because the bottom line is, did you know that all of these illnesses is not natural? You know, we've grown up in a world that's miseducated us to believe that illness is a natural process, is a natural phenomenon, but it really isn't. It's based on the world in which we live and their practices and behavior and the way in which they treat food and regard food, where you get these types of illnesses which are now commonplace and which most people, again, like I said, think is a natural occurrence, is a natural phenomena, but it really isn't. The human being was never created, designed by Almighty God Allah to be getting ill left, right, and center from the natural environment that is around the human being. The environment is there to actually enhance our existence on this planet. This is what it was put there for. But a man has corrupted the earth, corrupted the water, corrupted the air, the very air that we breathe today. So now they're fraudulently charging people congestion charge and ULEZ charge to drive into the center of the city, and it's all being extended out now because they say there's pollution in the air, and in order to fix that, they want to reduce the traffic flow into those areas, and so they've got to charge you money, not stop or ban the cars from going in there, just charge you a whole bunch of money on a daily basis, which doesn't actually fix the problem. It's just another way to rip people off of their hard-earned money, dear family. This is the world in which we live, where all of the natural resources have been corrupted and contaminated. And so no wonder the most honorable Elijah Muhammad was able to make the statement that all of the food that we currently consume is poisoned. This is the language that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad uses, hence why the system of how to eat to live is the critically most important thing that each and every one of us should be studying and learning today. More about
Fish.
But federal fisheries enforcement is serious business. Agents from NOAA and U.S. Customs tear open a container filled with frozen fish from Thailand. They're looking for fraud.
First, it's important to understand the matrix that food fraud lives in. There's intentional and unintentional types of food risk. Unintentional risks include food safety and quality, like accidental foodborne illnesses.
CDC estimates about 50 million people a year contract a foodborne illness. Only 20%, 1 in 5 of those can be identified.
50 million people a year. Again, low estimate in terms of the amount of people on this planet, around 7 billion now, and the amount of people who are absolutely suffering tremendous illnesses as a result of the kind of food that we are consuming. Dear family, we're gonna move on from that. I'm just touching on some things because, like I said, it's time for all of us to do our own digging in order to determine what it is that we're going to put into this precious vessel. Yemen is being starved of food. This picture is from Save the Children Fund in Canada. But Yemen is a classic example of an element of what we are talking about this evening. According to a Socialist Worker article, it says how food is used as a weapon. I mean, just think about that. You know, I can remember being in Africa one time, and literally the little village that I went into, I think it was, you know, I didn't see too many chickens around or other livestock, but the one chicken that they had, they were ready to cook it up in order to give me hospitality. I mean, I didn't eat meat, so I declined. But, you know, my point is, dear family, that for some people, for original people, for Africans and indigenous people, food is about nourishment. It's about hospitality. It's about the growth and development of the body of the person. But think about another person who sees food in a completely different way, where food is now to be used as a weapon. I just want us to think, man, how food is used as a weapon. One of the most despicable tactics, this is according to a Socialist Worker, one of the most despicable tactics our rulers will use in war. Not that they've used it, and they have used it in the past, but they intend to use it again. And they're using it right now in the Yemen, that our rulers will use in war and imperialist maneuvers is to deny basic food supplies to their enemies. Also remember, former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger reportedly said, who controls the food supply controls the people. I just want you to think about that thinking. Just think about how these people think, and then understand why food is such an important thing that all of us should be thinking about in terms of our survival into this 21st century. Dear family, and the reason I say that is because, again, because we got all these supermarkets now, whatever. I know for a lot of our people, we think, well, food is always going to be there. And in truth, what we're calling food in a lot of the supermarkets is not even food. Okay, this processed stuff, it's actually barely edible. And when you eat a lot of the things which we get from the supermarket, which have been heavily processed, they have very little nutritional value. Literally, you could be eating paper or cardboard in terms of the amount of nutrition that you're going to get from that. All it will do is make you feel that you fill the gap for a minute, and then you be hungry again because you've not been nourished. Okay, you've not been fed. I hope you get what I'm saying, dear family. The various types of food fraud include, but are not limited to, adulteration. I don't know if you understand adulteration, adultery, yeah, where you're supposed to be dealing with one thing, but you're dealing with maybe another thing or multiple things, you are adulterous. That's when you start mixing up the food now in a way that's not good for consumption. Substitution, where you a minute ago they kind of touched on it, where you're putting something forward as something, but it's not that thing. It's actually, you substituted the real thing for something else. Dilution, where you dilute down now the strength or the quality of the food. Tampering, where now, they say, oh, some guy went into a shop and tampered with the food stuff, tampered with a particular brand, and you could see the evidence of it because of the fact that the packaging had been ripped open or whatever, and you could see clearly that something had been done to that product. Tampering, simulation. Imagine simulating food. Again, pretending that something is food when in reality, you know very well that it shouldn't actually be consumed. Did you know, dear family, that the pig and pork were put on the planet for medicinal purposes for the Caucasians? That it was never, ever meant to be a foodstuff for the consumption of human beings, in particular for the original man and the original woman, for us? No way. It's put here as medicine and literally as a walking, living vacuum cleaner or hoover for eating up the dead bodies that used to be scattered all over the hills and cave sides of Europe before the Caucasian knew how to bury his dead. Check these things out, man. Learn the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, because they are awesome in terms of informing you about the reality of this world and the peoples of this world and the origin of everything, dear beloved family. Counterfeiting. Yeah, I'm sure you all understand that. People passing off fake money, same thing, fake food, okay? Counterfeiting and misrepresentation. This is the reality of the food industry today that you and I are trying to get a decent meal from. Just imagine, we live in a world where we must be on our guard simply to eat a decent meal. And unfortunately, brothers and sisters, not enough of us have got enough of a check procedure. Not enough of us are on guard about what goes into this mouth and then ends up contaminating the whole body. I don't know what gray market, production, theft, diversion all means, but it's one of those entities in the food fraud chain. But delusion, dilution, we've touched on it, counterfeiting, unapproved enhancement, where they're adding stuff to the food, substitution, and concealment and mislabeling. Mislabeling, I don't know, I was talking to my wife recently, she was saying something about the change in some of the labeling regulations again in this country soon, whereby where in the past they were obligated by law to put certain information on labels. I believe that what she was saying to me is that somehow that's going to be lessened and maybe they don't have to tell you everything. I think I can remember something about the GMOs, the genetically modified organisms, that at a certain point in the future, they're not going to have to tell you that this consists of genetically modified entities within your food. Dear family, this is the question again, what are we doing to grow, protect, or defend our food? How many of us are even thinking along those lines? Growing food, protecting food, defending our food. How many of us appreciate just how important food is and that it needs all of these elements when we're talking about, I don't use the term black race, but when we're talking about the black nation, do we understand that we have to literally have some soldiers to protect our supermarkets, our shops, and our fields, and our farms, and all of these things? Because if you don't, do you understand how much time farmers spend killing weeds and killing other bugs and potential enemies of the crop? Well, that's the mentality that one has to have if we're going to be able to adequately protect our food. Food defense means the protection of food from intentional contamination or adulteration by biological, chemical, physical, or radiological agents. It includes measures regarding prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery from intentional acts of food contamination. Dear brothers and sisters, understand, man, that a lot of our attitude today is very naive when it comes to this commodity called food, when it comes to this most precious thing. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad in How to Eat to Live says that food keeps us here and food takes us away. Think about that. It keeps us here, but equally it takes us away. Because every time we're consuming food, it's wearing the system, wearing the body, whatever. There are elements of the food that are giving us nutrition and doubling us up, growing us, making us to have good health and longevity. But at the same time, literally what we're taught in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam is that back in the day, when our elders who knew the concept and carried out the practice of how to eat to live, when they wanted to die, when they had lived hundreds of years to the point where they had literally seen so much of this life that they felt satisfied, they had seen enough. When they wanted to die, do you know what they did, their family? They would begin eating 3 times a day, 3 meals a day. This is now the staple of this world. In the Nation of Islam, the staple is 1 meal a day. And I know some of you, oh my God, I could never do it. Stop it. Stop it, man. You could do that and then some. You have that ability, and that's my diet, okay? Do I look like I'm falling apart, wasting away? Does my brain sound like it's not connecting? Come on, man. It's a myth. The amount of food that we eat, that we consume in a 24-hour period, it is ridiculous. And it's killing us, dear family. I know for a fact that the vast majority of us do not yet understand the modern day genocide that is taking place as we speak, primarily because of health issues caused by the consumption of adulterated, contaminated, and depleted foods designed to create food deserts in the Black community. Imagine, that's what we got. I can remember going to North America on a couple of occasions, Savior's Day, that beautiful, beautiful event that takes place each and every year in the month of February. And I can remember being in Chicago in the Black community, searching, man, going to shops, driving up and down. We were looking for food. And I'm telling you, family, we couldn't find no food. There was a whole heap of what people would think was food, but coming from the UK, we just couldn't eat it. We didn't recognize it as food. Colorful stuff, blue food, purple food, all kinds of stuff. Man, we can't eat this. We certainly can't drink this. And we certainly can't eat this because there was nothing natural. There was no natural food. It was a food desert. And then we understood then why, when we saw some of our people out there, because these are our people, these are our brothers and sisters. When we saw some of them, we said, whoa, I mean, huge people, big people that nobody has a right necessarily to be that size. But when you see the amount of sweet stuff and stuff that was on offer, man, it was scary, brothers and sisters. I mean, really, really scary. We could not find anything to eat. And on one occasion, when we were in Washington, we literally had to go down into the white areas to their shops. We had to go to Whole Foods, and even then it wasn't the best, but we managed to find a few bits and pieces in there that we could recognize, like what you can get here. What you can get here is not that great, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. We managed to find something that we felt we could eat. Dear brothers and sisters, this is some serious business, and I hope you understand that it is necessary for us to take this very, very seriously in terms of if we want to have health and longevity. What we put into this vessel is critically important. And you should be taking this more seriously than almost anything. Let's have a look at this.
Imagine a fully loaded jumbo jet with 220 passengers and crew taking off and crashing today. And the same thing happened every day next week, and every day next month, and every day for the rest of the year. That's exactly what is occurring when we say there are racial disparities in health in the United States. Over 200 Black people dying prematurely every single day.
Now, I'm going to play that again, because in case you missed what the brother said, okay? But then also remember, brother's talking about the United States, 200 Black people dying every single day. But understand that that number quadruples when you look at the global Black world. It's in particular what's going on the continent of Africa, in the Caribbean and other places where we predominate. We're dying, man, on a massive scale. And again, so much of it to do with what we are consuming, what we are allowing other people to put together for us to eat, which is actually not good food. And so I want you to listen to what this man said again, because this is the scale, this is the genocide that we're talking about. This is what's happening.
Imagine a fully loaded jumbo jet with 220 passengers and crew taking off and crashing today. And the same thing happened every day next week, and every day next month, and every day for the rest of the year. That's exactly what is occurring when we say there are racial disparities in health in the United States. Over 200 Black people dying prematurely every single day.
See, that's the key, family. Dying prematurely every single day. It's not dying from natural causes. A lot of people die from natural causes. A lot of people die, for different reasons, man. I mean, death, whether we like it or not, death is actually a part of life. It's a part of life. It accompanies life. It walks with life, death, okay? That's what winter kind of represents, death. Summer or spring into new life. Summer, full life. Autumn, or the fall, as you say in the States, falling, coming down now. We're coming back into death. So it's a natural process, but dying prematurely at those rates, that's what we need to be aware of, dear family. I'm not going to play it again. I was going to do it at least 3 times, so you could just to drum it in, because we are dying, brothers and sisters, when we don't need to be dying on the scale that we are dying. We are sick on a scale that we ought not to be sick because of our lack of attention and diligence to that which we are consuming. In the House of Commons debate on 14th of February 1986, around the time when they were banning the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan from coming into the United Kingdom, Mr. Michael Meadowcroft, MP for Leeds West, asked the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food if he will cease to require members of committees concerned with food standards to sign the Official Secrets Act. Here's an MP asking the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food if he will cease from requiring members of committees concerned with food standards to sign the Official Secrets Act. Why do they have to sign the Official Secrets Act? In reply, the parliamentary secretary, Mrs. Peggy Fenner, said, members of the Food Advisory Committee and the Committee on Toxicity is not required to sign any such declarations. Now that sounds like a very clear and definitive statement, right? But then she goes on, right? She says, members of the Food Advisory Committee and the Committee on Toxicity are not required to sign any such declarations. In common, this is where she goes on now, in common with any person with access to official information, they are subject to the provision of the Official Secrets Act. You see, man, you got to listen to the devil when they speak. No, they don't have to start, but in common with any person with access to official information, they are subject to the provisions of the Official Secrets Act. And where appropriate, therefore, they are reminded of the need to observe commercial confidentiality. Come on, man. How many of us knew that the food industry in the United Kingdom comes under the Official Secrets Act? Why does it have to be a secret? I mean, how many of us know that Pepsi and Coca-Cola, that they don't have to give their ingredients, that it's a secret? Because again, you know, commercial confidentiality, they don't want nobody to be able to copy that. That's the excuse, but really, you don't know. I mean, just imagine running out there and grabbing a Coke or a Pepsi and drinking that thing, throwing that thing down, and you don't even know what's in it. Oh man. Well, I'm feeling a bit excited now because we've been joined by somebody. So how you doing?
Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for your support. Yes, I've been listening in. It's disgusting, terrible. Isn't it? It really, terrible, really disgusting. Because when you go into the shop, just say you wanted to buy a loaf of bread. Why does there have to be 20 ingredients? I mean, can you remember when bread was just bread. A couple of ingredients? Exactly. Just bread. Just bread.
Now, unpronounceable.
Unpronounceable. You need a dictionary to go in the shops now.
Come on, man. Time to money. Wake up. It's all money, yeah, and worse than the fact that it's about money. I've got to emphasize this, family. There is a depopulation agenda, okay? Brothers and sisters, who can remember these incidents from the late 80s to now that absolutely shook up the UK food service industry? Remember mad cows disease? Exactly. When they said that the cows had gone mad, gone wild in the 80s and 90s? And did you know that at that time, one of the problems was that they were feeding cows to cows? Disgusting. Grinding up, a cow is a herbivore. He eats grass, but they were grinding up cows, dead cows, and feeding it back to cows, man. Do you understand how forbidden cannibalism is
Yes.
and why you're not supposed to eat your own kind, and that applies to cows as well. Go ahead,
yes,
sister.
but how do we know they don't do that?
No,
Anyway, for meat, those people who eat meat, how do we
but
know
that's
it's
the
not
point.
bodies?
That's the point. Minced meat.
That's right.
Can you imagine buying minced meat
Mhm.
from a devil?
How can you trust him?
What is it? That was mad cow disease. You remember the horse meat scandal? Horse burgers instead of beef.
Terrible.
They were, and again, you know, we're taught, and I know the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has mentioned this, how because the horse is the most intelligent of the creatures, is one of the reasons why we don't eat the horse. But there was a big scandal in the UK where it turned out that instead of beef, there was ground up horse being fed to the people.
But wasn't there a case where, do you remember they were growing a worm, a beef worm or something? Like that?
But that's real.
Yes.
It's very real. They a lot of the stuff that passes as beef today, it's not beef from a cow. These are beef worms. They're these fat worms that they grow, and then they mince up those worms, and those worms are what becomes your beef.
Yeah.
I mean, this is real. Again, dear family, do your due diligence and do your research, man, because this is serious business. Pret a manger. Remember the tragic allergic reaction cases where, a young girl that, well, that was the high profile case, but there's quite a lot of this stuff that goes on where you'll see sometimes that they'll say, well, the factory in which these things are processed, they may contain nuts, and then you've got people who've got nut allergies and so on and so forth, and you know, people can literally lose their lives. But again, how do you become allergic to particular things? Again, it's based on something else that has messed you up in the first place, and then makes you vulnerable to other things. Because as I said before, this illness culture, it's not natural, dear family. Remember, Birmingham wholesaler fined £35,000 for selling non-halal meat to Muslims.
Is that all?
There was a big, but there's been several. I mean, literally, you know, like when I do these shows, I literally would give you like a couple of examples of things, but there's so much. When I'm doing the research on this, I mean, it's one scandal after another in terms of things which are passed off as halal, and turns out this next case, remember, pork found in halal lamb burgers supplied to Leicester School. See, and again, this is deliberate, where they know that as Muslims, you're not supposed to consume that, and you think that you're getting, you know, something clean and halal, and it turns out that the thing has got a whole heap of pork in it because you can't be bothered
That's right.
to do stuff for yourself, and you think that these suppliers are gonna respect your religion and respect your health. Hell no. And there was the hygiene shock. I don't know if you can, this is a big case, poor practice at Russell Hume. Russell Hume is this big, massive company that there was a, you know, a big scandal around the fact that they were hygienically just completely and utterly out of doors. This was a headline from the 25th of January 2018. Russell Hume, another meat processor, falls foul of food safety regulations. The Food Standards Agency has stopped products leaving sites run by Russell Hume following instances of serious non-compliance with food hygiene regulations. And again, you know, if you could see the way some of these foodstuffs are handled behind the scenes, I mean, there's so much talk about health and hygiene or whatever, and when you look at the documentation and the paperwork, oh man, it's there's so much care and so much love and you know, so much caution.
Yes.
But the practice, when you see some of these people kicking the meat along the floor,
no,
that
when
people
you
are gonna
see it in the truck, on the
yeah, the way it's chucked into the truck and whatever. I mean, you know, dear family, I hope you're really understanding what we're trying to say here, this is not just about trying to put you off eating particular things, but it's really about saying that you should be a lot more careful about what you consume, because a lot of our illnesses can actually be avoided, can be averted. Russell Hume supplied a range of hospitality and catering businesses with meat and poultry products, including 900 Witherspoon pubs. You know, Witherspoon, very popular pub. They supplied them, as well as schools and care homes, okay? All sites were shut down in England, Wales, and Scotland. But I can guarantee you, man, within a few weeks, they do a few cosmetic things and tick a few boxes, and everybody
Up
is
and running.
back
Good
in
to go.
back
Good
in
to go.
business, back in business. Dear family, imagination, promoting and advertising goods and services for the benefit of our community. Please take note and support, brothers and sisters. Let's have a little musical interlude. You should visit www.jsoul.com at JJ_soul. To the place. So if you want to try JJ Soul products, email info@jjsoul.com or call 947-253-341. That's 07947-253-341. If you would like to sample some of those delicious JJ Sorrel products. Nature's Hair Products. Visit www.natureshairproducts.co.uk and try the beard oil, specially formulated hair butters, and so much more from Nature's Hair Products, dear family. Again, you know, when we talk about consumption and what we put inside of our bodies, it's just as important what we put on the outside, in particular, again, what we put on this head. Because remember, that's your brain. And whatever you put here, the skin is the greatest breathing organ of the body. And everything we put here goes right directly into the skin and then finds its way into the bloodstream and even can penetrate the blood-brain barrier. And we can find ourselves in a lot of trouble if we're putting chemicals on our hair and on our heads and on our faces. So, you know, check out Nature's Hair Products. B.W. Heating and Plumbing Services are looking for a young trainee aged between 18 and 25, interested in learning and getting hands-on experience, dear family, in heating and plumbing. We are based in West London. No experience is required. You must be willing and not afraid of hard work. If that sounds like you, please contact Bert on 07831 841 786. That's Bert on 07831 841 786, or email on bweaton@hotmail.co.uk. Dear family, check out, visit the tribe at www.tribenation2019.com and pick up one of their beautiful garments for you to wear. Dear brothers and sisters, we are advertising on the Image a Nation show. Please check out Nia's Bean Pies. Visit Instagram at Nia's_bean_pies or call 07956 127 975. That is 07956, one of the original mobile numbers. 07956 127 975. When you get a mobile number like that, you know that that
yeah,
person has
they're
been
good.
paying their
They're
bills.
good. Yes,
They've
they're
been
good.
paying their bills, because that's one of the original mobiles.
That's right.
Some of us wasn't able to hang on to ours. Dear family, it is a sweet. This bean pie is a sweet that's healthy all at the same time. You can order it and it will be delivered to your door if you are in that London area. Also, dear family, check out WYLA. That is the West London Young Leaders Academy for boys and girls age 8 to 16, producing our future leaders. Visit www.wylauk.com. Get your child signed up to one of these great academies currently running for the growth and development of our young people, helping them to become the future leaders that they are destined to be. Also, visit www.p2bb.uk or londonstudygroup19.org and order your Proud to be Black t-shirts, caps, and mugs, and say it like you mean it, P2BB, in other words, proud to be Black. Dear family, I hope you are proud to be Black. If you are a Black man or a Black woman, please get away from this nonsense where somebody's made you to feel that Black is something negative. Black is something that we should not attach to ourselves because the white man has made us think that there's something wrong with Black. No, Black is beautiful. Right. Black is power. Black is the source of all energy and all life, dear brothers and sisters. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Don't let them fool you, man. Embrace your Blackness. We are African, we're Black, we're original, we are the children of the Most High God. Visit www.natureshairproduct.co.uk and try the moisturizing hair and scalp oil, as well as beard oil and other natural hair products. Dear family, brothers and sisters, don't forget, visit our YouTube channel, the Nation of Islam London Study Group. Like, share, and subscribe. Please do that, brothers and sisters. Like the channel and share and subscribe with to what we are doing so that we can grow what we are doing. And also, please click that donation button and give us a little bit of that charity that you have to share so that we can continue to do this work. Dear family, I must admit that having lived the bulk of my life in this Western world among such strange people here in the UK, which is the mother of Western thought and the architect of social, political, economic, and military way of life for large parts of the world that remain under their influence, I am shocked and dismayed at the gullibility of so many Africans and the ease with which we are still fooled and so easily tricked out of life and into sickness and death by smooth talking rich demons. I'm shocked at just how easily tricked and fooled we are, brothers and sisters. We must wake up.
Just a quick question about farming. You both have talked about how digital technologies from mobile phones to sequencing genomes of seeds could play a very big role in farming in Africa. How big of a role do you see small farmers playing in this effort? Are you focusing on bigger farmers? Just how is this going to play out?
We are quite focused on smallholder farmers because the predominant number of Africans farming today are smallholder farmers, and they're on pieces of land that are less than 2 hectares, so it's quite a small farm. There are agro deal.
Brothers and sisters, there's a language that I've heard they use online where they say trolls. Mm-hmm. These people troll people. I mean, think about Bill and Melinda Gates. What the hell has African farmers got to do with them?
That's right.
Why is it that she can tell you, you know, about who's farming in Africa, how they're farming, the size of their farms? What interests have these people got with their World Economic Forum backdrop? I mean, just think about it, brothers and sisters. Think about the arrogance and the absolute disgrace of these people being so immersed in our business that they're talking about us. You know, there was this slogan that came out of one of the marches that we did on a yearly basis in Brixton. It was something, nothing about us without us. You know, so don't talk about us unless we're at the table, kind of thing. But you know, this is, do you understand how prevalent this is? Where you got other people making rules and regulations, setting policies for Black people, how we're gonna live, and we've actually got no say in it. I mean, just think about the question that the woman, even in her question, she's talking about seeds. And I hope we're listening, family, because I could just.
That exist in these countries, we need to get that network up and running, just like we've got the vaccine network up and running and getting vaccines out, getting up and running so they're teaching people proper planting, proper fertilization.
She's talking about farming, and then we got the vaccines up and running already. Well, see again, and we're so naive. You see these people coming with their wicked agenda. And here they're coming to teach us how to farm. These are the people who have been on the planet for literally trillions of years. The white man is a little baby, just came on the planet yesterday, but now they're gonna come and teach us how to farm, brothers and sisters. And we fall for it, and we allow these people in and allow them to come in with their nefarious, nasty agenda. And we wonder why Africa is in the terrible condition that it's in. Why? Because these people's hands are all over it, man.
Proper irrigation and getting them new seeds as they come out. There's fantastic technology going on for pest-resistant seeds, for drought-resistant seeds, flood-resistant seeds as the rains come at different times. And so as people are educated about—
Allah didn't design pest-resistant seed and flood-resistant seeds and all of these seeds that you are now manufacturing, genetically modifying to come and kill our people. But this is the arrogance of these people who interfere in everything. Did you have something, beloved?
And they start to see their neighbors getting, you know, a third more yield off their farm. They say, I want those. So getting those systems up and running. Again, one of the most promising places we see that happening is Ethiopia today. They really have gotten their infrastructure and agriculture working, and that will lift up not just farmers on their own.
This is Ethiopia, the only nation on the continent of Africa that absolutely resisted the complete colonization of that nation, fought off Mussolini and these Italians and these devils when they attacked that land and absolutely destroyed them, beat the Europeans. Emperor Haile Selassie's land. But now you see they found their way in there, and they're so confident in themselves in terms of the fact that they've got hold of that land now. My God, brothers and sisters.
Farm, so they have more to eat, but they can put it on the local market and it lifts up the economy.
There's been talk of gene editing and really getting high tech with seeds. Of course, there's some controversy over that. How big of a role do you think?
Gene edited. So now they're going to edit the genes of the very plant or edit the gene of the human being. Because understand, if they edit the gene of the plant and then you eat that plant, that's editing your genes. Because you are what you eat, and the plant and the the fauna and flora of the planet that we consume, that's part of us, man. We are that, and that is us. So when we allow these people to now start messing around with nature, tampering with nature, and then we're gonna consume what they've tampered with, and then we wonder why we are sick and dying. Africans now falling foul to cancer and AIDS and all of these other things that were unheard of in our history. Brothers and sisters.
Technology and gene editing may be used to really tackle the food problem.
Yeah, what are called GMOs are done by changing the genes of the plant, and it's done in a way where there's a very thorough safety procedure, and it's pretty incredible because it reduces the amount of pesticide you need.
The little devil just threw it. A very safe procedure.
Exactly.
My God, safe for who? Safe for you?
Raises productivity, can help with malnutrition by getting vitamin fortification. And, you know, so I think for Africa, this is going to make a huge difference, particularly as they face climate change, the increased productivity and resilience of the seeds, most of which will come from the new scientific techniques. So the gene editing just allows that to be done in a more precise way than it's ever been done in the past. So it'll accelerate the rate of innovation.
Do you think there's a certain naivete that without that it could be done anyway? That I mean, you've seen the results on the ground of conventional.
The Africans.
Do you think that if you just left Africa alone, Africa would take care of itself? Now he's going to tell you the Africans what?
It's up in the air, and you know, Kenya just approved BT maize. The Europeans have decided they don't want to use it, most of them, which is fine. They're not.
The Europeans have decided they don't want it. They don't want the GMO. They don't want the genetically modified stuff in Europe. What is it that they know about you, Bill? Because you're one of them and they're one of you. But let's push this stuff on Africa, right? Let's push this stuff on the so-called developing world. Wicked demon. This is what's going on, brothers and sisters.
Facing malnutrition and starvation. If they want to pay a premium for food of a kind, it's not a huge deal. The US, China, Brazil are using these things. And if you want farmers in Africa to improve nutrition and be competitive on the world market, as long as the right safety things are done, that's really beneficial. It's kind of a second round of the green revolution. And so the Africans, I think, will choose to...
Predicting what we will choose. Right. The Africans will choose to go along with me because I'm such a smooth talking devil. I'm such a smooth talking Satan that these Africans, they will trust me because I'm such a gentleman. Look at me in my nice little suit. My goodness, brothers and sisters, please, please, please wake up, Africa, because these people have got to leave Africa entirely, man. Dear family, unfortunately, a lot of what I would like to share with you, I can't share because the video would probably never see the light of day. Okay, they've taken down some of our shows already. But let me point you to a white scientist by the name of Mike Adams, the health ranger, who has his own laboratory and a website called Natural News, with the motto, defending health, life, and liberty. I don't agree with everything this man says, but I believe him to be a truth teller and one you should research if you would like to learn more of this devastating truth and how food, and most of the drugs targeted at Black people and Black communities for our health, in quotation marks, is the very thing that's making us sick and is killing us. Okay, I just want you to understand that, this white man, this Caucasian man, he's out there telling a lot of truth, but how many of us are listening? I suggest you should visit his website, Natural News. His name is Mike Adams. He calls himself the Health Ranger, and he's not much liked by the whites who run this world because he dares to tell the truth about what's going on. These are just some of the kind of articles, revelations, videos, and shocking headlines you will read or see featured on Natural News website. Listen to this. The planned sterilization of Black people is sanctioned by humanitarian organizations. Now, do you understand what that means? See, we hear all the time about these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations that are always in Africa and in the so-called third world. They're in Haiti, they're in the Caribbean. Let me tell you something, man. A lot of these organizations are the very ones that they use, okay? They're here to help us. But this is what Mike Adams and Natural News is revealing, okay? How the planned sterilizations of Black people is sanctioned by these so-called humanitarian organizations. That article goes on to say, among other things, government agencies have on many occasions targeted those of African descent, for instance, with medical experimentation, programs that have left many of them sick, sterile, or even dead. Do you understand how terrified these people are of our ability to reproduce? And sterilization is one of the things that you'll keep hearing coming up over and over again in terms of what they do to us. And one area of this multifaceted agenda against us that many people overlook involves groups that supposedly work on behalf of the poor in other countries to increase life expectancy and health outcomes. Imagine these are the laudable things that they say they're there to do, to increase life expectancy and health outcomes. And then the article goes on to name two such organizations, UNICEF and Kiwanis. UNICEF and Kiwanis are the two organizations that this article in particular names. Dear family, I can just hear some of us completely incredulous, disbelieving, not UNICEF, you know, because this is you hear about UNICEF all the time, okay? The world famous and highly respected United Nations Children Fund. That's what UNICEF stands for, United Nations Children's Fund. This is what most of us think we know about UNICEF. This is what they tell us, that it works in more than 190 countries and territories to reach the most disadvantaged children and adolescents and to protect their rights. It's one of the world's largest providers of vaccines. Hear that again? Wow. Vaccines, UNICEF. UNICEF supports child health and nutrition, safe water and sanitation, quality education and skill building, HIV prevention and treatment for mothers and babies, and the protection of children and adolescents from violence and exploitation. Doesn't it sound wonderful? Isn't it laudable? And this is why I go back to what I said before about our naivety and our gullibility in taking these people at their word, taking these people at face value. Now, that all sounds very nice, right? We've agreed. But let's get away from fantasy and into some reality. Mike Adams reports the following headline on Natural News. Kiwanis caught teaming up with UNICEF to sterilize Black and brown people in the name of preventing tetanus. Now, I'm not, Leo Muhammad ain't making up nothing. These are things which have been widely reported. But again, see how many of us even know anything about these things that happen on the continent and in other parts of the world. You know, because obviously we live in England and United States where it's a free press, right? Really? Really? Most of this stuff is never reported, covered up. Another part of the article reads, another organization with a shady agenda disguised as helping people is Kiwanis International. As Mike Adams explains in a recent video, Kiwanis joined up with UNICEF to implement its disturbingly titled Eliminate Project, which the group says involves delivering tetanus vaccines to pregnant women who may otherwise lose their children to tetanus. So again, you see, they're coming in to help. They're coming in to help us, man, so that we don't lose our children to tetanus. Kiwanis claims that tetanus steals the lives of nearly 34,000 innocent babies and significant numbers of women each year. Listen to the language, listen to the language. This tetanus steals the lives of nearly 34,000 innocent babies and a significant number of women each year. So now Kiwanis is going to help us, right? Hence why the group believes that it's critical to deliver as many vaccines as possible, particularly throughout Africa. But as Mike Adams points out, many of these vaccines are being laced with sterilization chemicals that prevent those women who receive them from having children at all. Do you think we've only lost 34,000 like that? Or do you think it's running into the millions, considering how long these people have been running all over Africa, injecting our children, and we, like lambs to the slaughter, just offering up our little babies to them because we think that they are philanthropic, wonderful, beautiful saviors coming from the West to help these poor, decrepit Africans out. My God. Oh Allah. Catholic bishops in Kenya were among the first to identify the presence of sterilization chemicals in the Kiwanis/UNICEF tetanus vaccines. They found these things in the vaccines that they were pumping into our children and into our women, into our mothers in Africa, in Kenya, among other places, to which they alerted the media and helped get the story out to the public, or at least the public outside of the United States. And I would include in that the UK. See, even though it was exposed, it wasn't reported on in America, and I can guarantee you it would have been suppressed here as well. In the free press, you see the American media machine deliberately ignored the story and continues to provide cover for both UNICEF and Kiwanis in spreading their evil behind the disguise of aid. This is what they're always helping us, aren't they? Always helping us. And all with the blessing of the World Health Organization, WHO, which approves of this covert sterilization agenda. Do we even know how so many of these world bodies are used as tools and weapons for our destruction as a people? Dear family, it's time for us to wake up to how Bill and Melinda Gates and the Gates Foundation, along with Monsanto and various other globalist companies, including pharmaceuticals like Pfizer and others, have worked systematically to rid the planet of natural seeds and the small farmers who have always relied on them, and to replace them with GM seeds to our detriment. Just listen a little bit to this.
In 1995, a Monsanto representative in a speech in Washington, D.C.
Bandana Shiva.
We've achieved something absolutely unprecedented. We wrote an agreement, gave it to our government, which then had it moved to the GATT. We also went directly to the GATT Secretariat and moved the treaty, and we were the patient, diagnostician, physician all in one. And what was the problem? What was the disease? The disease was farmers are saving seed. Now, a patent is a right of an inventor.
Did you hear that? The problem was that the farmers are saving their seeds. The farmers are planting natural seeds. This is the problem to these international groups who come in now with the solution, which is to destroy all of this and replace it with GM.
To exclude anyone else from making, using, selling, distributing what is invented. The problem is when it comes to seed, seed is not an invention. Seed evolves, farmers co-evolve with the seed to breed varieties. Seed is evolution. And I'm so glad Pope Francis has said evolution happens. Evolution is real. Just gave a speech the other day. So the invention of seed being built into law, for me, was so outrageous. Because
you understand that these people are saying that they've patented these seeds. And so in the future, the plan is that you won't be able to even grow anything unless you get seeds from them. And these are genetically modified seeds with outcomes for the consumer that are mostly unknown by us. They know the harm that these things are going to do. That's why they've done what they've done to the seeds. Brothers and sisters.
I've been working to defend the integrity of species, the intrinsic value of every life form of this planet, and to suddenly be told the life forms are inventions was a very, very deep violation. But I kept thinking, these companies are talking about 5 of them controlling the seed supply in the future. That's what they said. They said, we are too small, so we must become bigger. And right now you see Monsanto's controlling so many seed companies. At that meeting, there was Ciba-Geigy and Sandoz. They merged to become the pharmaceutical firm Novartis, and then they joined with Astra and Zeneca to become Syngenta.
These are the same people supplying vaccines, and the same people wanting to control all of the seed produce on the planet. Brothers and sisters, I really hope you get it. I really hope you understand what we're really trying to get at today, because we haven't got time to mess around. You're talking about people's lives here. Without apology, this is the only solution to the sickness and death running rampant in Black and Indigenous communities on the mother continent, the Caribbean, North and South America, the Isles of the Pacific, and right here among us in this European diaspora, dear family. It's called How to Eat to Live. Without apology. It's up to you. It's up to you. But I'm telling you, man, you've got to be doing something today to protect yourself. Because what we've touched on in this show this evening, that is just the scratch. We've only scratched the surface of how diabolical what these people are doing is. And just to show how easy it is to fall foul of the wickedness of the food industry, this is what happened to me, Brother Leo. This is what happened to me recently when I bought a drink in an African Caribbean shop, but the ingredients were written so small I could not read them at the time of purchase. But I went into an African Caribbean shop, and this drink, it's got ginger and stuff. I mean, I was excited, man, because I remember having that taste back in the day, and I really wanted this drink. And it was a drink that you could kind of dilute to taste. I don't want to name what it is, but I got the drink. But once I got home to my wife, my wife is like, Sister Claudia is like, she's like an inspector. She's like an investigator. Once I got home and she got the magnifying glass out, this is what we discovered. E122. This is one of the ingredients that was on that bottle. And E122 is colorant banned in Japan, Canada, Norway, Austria, Sweden, and the United States. This is a banned substance, but it's in this drink found in the African Caribbean shop that I went and purchased to bring home to drink. In some countries, the E122 additive is classified as a carcinogen, which increases the likelihood of cancer. Carcinogen is cancer forming. This is the reality, dear brothers and sisters, of what we face. And I'm sorry for those of us who just refuse to read labels and be conscientious about what we put into our systems. But that's not all. Then there was, in another part of the ingredients, sodium sulfite, or E22, which is a white powder. Go ahead.
I think it was E221.
E221 was the second one.
Yeah.
This is a white powder, inorganic, non-stable, typically used as a synthetic preservative to avoid food spoilage, and has a faint sulfur dioxide smell. It essentially offers all the side effects that sulfur dioxide, E220, does. It can reduce vitamin content and cause diarrhea, vomiting, headaches, asthma, and asthma-related detrimental effects. On top of that, it can cause swelling, behavioral problems, nettle rash, gastric irritation, and other allergic reactions. It can irritate the stomach lining. This is what was in a drink that I wanted to drink, man. Thank Allah for my wife, who did her due diligence. And I'm saying to you, dear family, as we close, do your due diligence. I'm sorry if anybody is depressed because of this kind of content, but we have to warn you. We have to tell you the truth, because you have the ability to save yourself. We have to be self-saviors, man.
That's right.
Ain't nobody gonna come and do no magic trick and pull us out of this situation. We're gonna have to do it ourselves. And so, dear family, I pray that something that we said this evening is of benefit to you, that you have, been given the arms and the tools now to go and do some study and some research for yourself, to save yourself and your family and your children, because our future is awesome if we would go towards it in the right manner. So I thank you, Sister Claudia. Anything that you wanted to share before we close out?
Just to say thank you to our family in Cardiff, in Flint. Thank you, Sister
Flint,
yes,
where they contaminated the water system of our people. Pray to Allah that our people are getting clean water in Flint at the present time. Go ahead.
That's right. And to thank Sister Selena for your comments this evening. And I would strongly advise us all to get How to Eat to Live, Book 1 and Book 2. Save ourselves.
Yeah.
Must save ourselves.
Yeah.
Very good books.
Get those books, family. Get those books. Those books are life-changing.
Absolutely.
Life-enhancing. You'll never read anything like it. It's just phenomenal on another level.
That's right. And this is what this world is copying, like doing intermittent fasting.
And I'll just say very briefly as we close. Look, you see, the system in that book, man, where you allow 24 hours to pass between meals, so that your system can cope with the poison that you ate at the last meal, and then clear it out before you put some more poison in. Because until we really begin to control the production of our own food, we're subject to what's out there.
That's right.
So you're not necessarily going to be able to completely avoid the poison. The body is very powerful. It's very resistant. It can deal with a little poison as long as you don't keep putting poison on top of poison. So that's the beauty of that system of the 1 meal a day, fasting for 3 days in every month. And then if you want to do some longer fast, you can do that too, because it's reset your system.
That's right.
Whenever you feel like doing it. It's awesome, dear family. And there's so much more. So, I pray that you will take the advice, take the warning, so that we can preserve ourselves into a much better future. The devil, the enemy, Satan, is not here forever. He's finished. And in truth, we're the ones who are keeping him in power by our acquiescing to him, bowing to him, doing his will instead of doing the will of Almighty God Allah. And so let's put him in his rightful place. Let's identify him, and then let's leave him alone and do something for ourselves. Thank you, dear beloved brothers and sisters. May the Creator grant you success in that which you endeavor to do in your life. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. As I greet you, as I found you in the greeting words of peace, Assalamu alaikum.